That is the knowledge only come when we are able to justify and accounting for our truth and belief. That is our in this aspect. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much for sharing your understanding. Yes, of course, the main point of the client's dialogue is to teach us. To teach us. That's why we related to the purpose of philosophy is to enable us to live a good life. So through that's why maybe there is there is an article which Plato used to write down his dialogue form in order to reach not reach the people not only at a time, but as in fact today we also um, can find out those articles. Yes, the main point is to teach us. So how can they use that kind of article to teach us in order to live with a better life? So I think mostly is that kind of argumentative dialogue in order to help people uh, to involve the people mind to think, as I said before, think critically and think logically, and in order to give a very good argument or very good reason for any cases or for the question that we get from someone or the question that we are wondering about ourselves or any case. Yeah. But the main point is the argument. Yeah. To have people to be free as a human being. Yeah. So thank you again, Ramos. So now next to the Fatima, you mentioned what you were able to understand. It's your time.
When I did got some information and understanding of about philosophical or argument or a form. Actually, I wrote it that in Socrates' his account, he said that know yourself. That is, it means that everything you do, but you should examine our mind, examine first. Wherever you do something, you should be examine. So, given that through that Plato, his dialogue between Socrates and the other philosopher, so the main point about how to lead the people in the good life.
Recording in progress.
Through that argument, so many philosophers ask the question through that. So Socrates, Plato, he also
recording stopped.
Plato also he answered that through the rationalist, someone who believes in our believes human reason is the primary source of all the knowledge. Is someone if you believe the knowledge it can be lead the people to live in the good life. Actually, in his dialogue, also even though we study, but we should to think the question is rather than themselves. So, based on the article, also through the discussion of between the Socrates and the other philosopher, Plato also, actually they discuss about the theory of form, or something is we can see immediately and to lead the people in the good life. Thank you.
Yes. So, what I can catch from your point is through the applied dialogue or the form of the discussion or dialogue, through the knowledge can lead people to have a good life. Yeah, as I mentioned before, I think yes, that is true that human being, we need not the perfect wisdom, but we need knowledge, we need wisdom in order to lead our lives. So if we know nothing, we we know nothing, we cannot do anything. Yeah, we know nothing, we cannot do anything. Because through the knowledge we can understand our daily life, and then we can face different many difficulties, but through the knowledge we may yeah, we can also control ourselves. So we may find a way which kind of life is better, which way of life is good in order for us to make uh, to to be not burden ourselves in daily life, because it can be simply like that. But anyway, the knowledge human being need in order to live our life to the better way of life. So by the philosophical study, we may find out different, very interesting way that the philosophers have done, and they have shown us, for example, ethics, metaphysics, and then reasoning, logically. There are many ways that we can find from that. Yes, right. So continue our discussion. Now I proceed to move to the David Dusantis Magna to share your understanding after reading. So have you understood, you may share. And if you also have any question to ask, if you know the answer, you can answer. Your time.
Yes, as I read a few minutes ago in this article, so in here, and this raises the question of how these two aspects of Plato's written are related. We do not want to say that they are external or accidental to each other. But he does this to address and drive in the question of the dialogues. Is the just person happier than the unjust person? Or what is the relation of justice and the happiness? So give the two central, like the question of the discussion, Plato's philosophical concerns in the dialogues are the ethical and the political. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much, David Dos Santos Magno, for sharing your thought. Yes, of course, the dialogue is very interesting, very important in that article. So, now it's my hand to share also and to summarize our article. And based on what I was able to understand is, I have noted in that article. So Plato dialogue form he used dramatic elements and including humor draws to the reader. So he has a very good way to draw his idea to the reader or to the listener. So I think that kind of way is in order to give an attraction to people, in order to participate actively for the discussion. But at the same time, in order to invoke other people's mind to think, as I said before, critically. And then this dialogue was contained with the Socrates and other authority, other people, in order to uh, find out what kind of very argumentative reason for the discussion. And then, so through the dialogue, he used to guide the reader and then he emphasized that philosophical activity and the dialogue is the primary purpose. So dialogue is the primary purpose of the philosophical activity. So as we know, before many philosophers have written their article or philosophical study as they used to go to the town, to the many places in order to ask many peoples, and that kind of activity in order to find out what kind of people like, for example, for the political problem, as one article we have discussed before in the Socrates, yeah, yeah. Before before they wrote the article, they sent their followers to the town, to the many cities or state in order to find out how the leader or ruler ruled their own country and what kind of rule that or what kind of way they used to apply. So through that kind of problem, the evidence that they find out, so finally they used to write what is the good one in order for them to apply. That's why in Plato dialogue he said the dialogue is the primary purpose of the philosophical study. Because actually in that article there are 2 points that the philosophers or the Plato used in his article. So the first one is questioning, and the second is answering. So through the dialogue, they used to ask for the other people, or maybe ask for each other, to give the critical question and to invoke the readers or the students' mind in order to think critically to find the answer, so something like that. And then through that kind of dialogue, so it has affected to his followers. So not only in the Plato time, but after they have discussed Plato, his followers also tried to wrote down his dialogue of form. Yes. So in the article, so in the last paragraph, last paper, I also read, I guess some point from that. They say that a good part of the lesson we are able to catch from that article is they show what is not only theory but in fact, and then about the argument that they used to present. So through the argument and from what that they got, they used to present it was. So as he said, I quoted one sentence from that article. For that that argument or that kind of dialogue is for nothing, but for our own thought gains us knowledge. So, for example, there is a discussion, and we are participate also. For example, this kind of discussion, sometimes we can read, but we cannot understand also. And then, through the kind of discussion, we may find out some point. Maybe we can through it the simple point, it can help us to think, and we can read more. Maybe explain like this, and read more, and analyze more. We can understand not totally, but enough for our knowledge, So, as we mentioned earlier, the main idea of philosophy, or the main idea of the right to dialogue is the first. The dialogue for each other is to teach us. So how to participate well in the discussion or dialogue. And then the dialogue is not just debating, but giving the answer or giving the questions, and the other people may give the answer. And then he believes that knowledge only comes when we are able to justify and account for our true beliefs. Yes. So if we do nothing, we cannot gain any kind of knowledge. Yes. So like the philosophical study, also like philosophical thesis. They, they have a lot of think tanks. They have a very good mind because they were very actively in the discussion, and also they try to find out from the different people in the other time. That's why many things that they used to present. So by questioning and answering, that is the process of the philosophical activities. So if someone give a question by constructing the philosophical case, then sometimes the question is very simple. If they use by the philosophical question, sometimes it's difficult to answer also. So following the article that we have. So there are four points that I was able to get from the article. So the first one is one determination to do justice is through the argument. So maybe if we relate it to the judgment, to judge something in the court or in the society, the best way to find the solution, as we mentioned before, give a very strong argument. Yeah, but I think sometimes ideology only by the idea. Sometimes we cannot prove also our reason. Yeah. So I think also we must put the evidence in what we put evidence to make our argument is very strong. And the second, as a ruler, if we relate to the one country, one community, there is a ruler. So as a rule, it is an argument which forms the backbone of the dialogue and give it its structure. So ruler must have a very good argument, must give very good dialogue in order to help people to understand what kind of rule that they used to apply. But one thing that ruler must apply during their ruling is good argument. Yes. And the fourth is, and another one is so Plato is not just the thinker, but through his philosophical study, he used some kind of discovery clever arguments. So many kind of arguments came from the different philosophers by debating with Aristotle, Plato, or Socrates, yeah. And Plato himself has, as I mentioned earlier, six articles, six form of dialogue, as yeah. So as the argument dialogue take the following basic form, as I mentioned before. So there are two parties as a questioner and respondent. So any case or any dialogue, any debate, there must be two parties like that. Even the government, in the government ruler during the period, there are 5 years or 4 years, there always exist the opposite team and also the pro team. Yeah, sometimes through that kind of fighting, they need to fight each other. Yeah. So the questionnaire, so through the discussion, the questionnaire asks a series of yes or no. So one kind of philosophical dialogue question that Plato used to apply in his dialogue is in this dialogue I noted here. So are all men mortal, something like that, in order to find the answer from the student or the followers. So the question, in order to find the answer is like yes or no. So it's like that also the question always continue to prolong as they say also here. Is Socrates man? Sometimes we know that he is a human, he is a man, but the question is still arises as a philosophical question: is he is a man? Sometimes it's very difficult to understand. Yeah. So anyway, so the main purpose, as we mentioned earlier, through that article, to teach us how to have a better life by using the good argumentative and to be participate in the dialogue in order to help us to think critically and philosophically. And then I think that's what I can understand. I can understand. So,
But I also want to share something. Actually, we know that through the discussion of the Plato and the philosopher, they think about the philosophical, critical, and make the question. So, what is the main purpose for them to discuss? Actually, we think even they discuss, but if we have something in fact to discuss, they related to something like for example, he talk about the origin, they talk about the method, they talk about the subject. That means they want to gain the human knowledge. They want to debate, because if we just talking about them discuss, so if no fact, so not easy to people. So they related to the some origin of the human. So they can depend on whether they can choose or depend to the human comparison of the knowledge, because in fact some people he believe like the discussion about Aristotle and Plato. Aristotle or Plato say Plato and Socrates. He say that people in comparison, Socrates Plato say, who believes in knowledge, it can lead us to lead us to, in the better life. In Socrates also he said that in human lives we need to using the subject something we can touch, we can feel. But in Plato he said that use the form, something using by only ideas only. So it means we can relate it to the fact, something from the origin, like the nature. So from that, they base to discuss or debate during their discussion. So that is the fact, because they put in the fact, if they will not talk only I think that is a answer question through their knowledge, a different knowledge of the philosopher. But there's actually many philosophers they deal with the origin of the something, and to gain their knowledge to debate with something is truth and validity. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So I think, um, yeah, we have discussed many things that come from the article into our mind. We have said. So before we ended our article, so we may share what you are able to understand through the discussion. So now is your turn now.
But for me, I read in this later arguments about dialogue is I think is very important nowadays. We are student. We have to learn. We have to understand what is we are studying. I think it is very important. Nowadays we have a group like we have the group and we follow the rules for the rules from the professor that they gave to us. We have to uh, debate. We have to discussion. It is included in the dialect. Uh, for my understanding, if we through this dialect discussion, we have to create some important things like the knowledge idea from each other because now we study about the philosophy like Plato, his arguments and dialect he used to teach us. But it is, I think that the less can be define the communication between people, between the people, two or like three when they together and they can dialogue how to talk about the politics, how to talk about what is how to develop our studying or develop our culture. It is through the dialogue. It is very important. And also for the we had some idea from the later arguments that it is to dialogue is to provoke student how to get the question and how to answer the question. It is the from the later argument is very important to about dialogue, and it is my answer.
Thank you very much. Very good. So, yes, how to participate in the dialogue. The important thing we have to understand is, as you say, how to understand the person before we answer the question. So, yes, thank you. So now David can share briefly about what we can gain in this discussion or any question you may ask also.
So in this region, I think it's good for us to uh, to, uh, to learn about the Plato, his dialogue, to give the idea to our mind and how to live in a good life. But not to live in the good life, to find ourselves and push to live a good life. So that's my answer.
say that. Yes, of course, that's right. That's right. Through the philosophical study, there are many things that we used to learn, and through their idea that they have presented, it might help us to find to have to live in a good life. Yeah. So I think that's all our discussion for today. Thank you very much for sharing your thought and your understanding. So we can, it doesn't mean to only discussing today, we finish that article, but we need to read more. We need to read more in order to understand clearly what that article means for us, and then we may gain some knowledge through the article and also through this kind of discussion. So I think that's our discussion for today.
Thank you.
Yeah. So once again, thank you very much, and have a good day.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.